YouTube. Today we're going to make my grandmother's pie crust. She never taught it to me, nor did my mom, but I figured it out. And it's awesome! So let's do it! Yay! So today we're going to make a single crust pie, and all the amounts again are always in the bottom. But if you want to make a double crust pie for like your basic fruit pie or pot pie or something like that, the amounts are down in the doodle-doo, so you should just go click down there. Okay, so you only need 3 ingredients, which is awesome. All-purpose flour, whipping cream. It doesn't have to be heavy whipping cream, that's just was cheaper at the store. And 1/3 cup of salted butter. If you don't use the salted butter, you have to add salt. So, use the salted butter. It's easier. You need 1 1/4 cups of flour, and I just don't shift it or anything. If you're a little over, a little under, it's not going to really impact anything. So you add the flour and shake it up, and then you need 1/3 stick of butter for the single crust pie. I forget how much for the double. Just go look. Or a bubble might pop up. Bubble pop up. We'll have a bubble pop up. I like the bubbles. And all you do is just blend it in with the flour. And basically, you're like, you know when you cream sugar to make cookies, and you gotta mix all the sugar and butter together before you add the eggs? Same basic idea. You want to mix all the butter and flour together before you add the cream. You could use like a food processor or a mixer or something, but quite frankly, the amount of time it takes to get that all set up and to clean it isn't worth it, because as you can see, in like a minute, you'll have it all together. And basically you want to check to be able to kind of mold it into a ball, but it easily flakes away. So once you're at that stage, you kind of pat it down to make a pancake at the bottom of your bowl, and you're going to make a couple little wells to pour in the cream. Now, you want approximately 1/4 cup of cream. It changes depending on your area for a couple of reasons. The heaviness of the cream changes on where you live in the country, what time of year it is in the country, what kind of cows there are, what they're eating, how they process the cream, 20,000 things. And then also the actual humidity in where you're living right now will change the cream. So I can't tell you a perfect amount. So what I do is just measure out 1/4 cup and pour, oh, some of it spilled, that's okay. And just kind of drizzle it on top. And then once you've added the cream, you want to touch the dough as little as possible, because I don't know about you, but I like a flaky pie crust. So I kind of blend in a little bit of cream and make it a little more together, and then you slowly add more cream. And most pie recipes will tell you not to add cream, but to add water. Cream makes it better. If you're on a diet, don't eat pie. It takes a while to master the ideal amount of cream to flour, and truth be told, I mess up sometimes too. So you basically want to get it nice and sticky, but not too watery. And seriously, it takes a couple times to master this. And if you basically overdo it, just add a little bit more flour. If you end up realizing you're having to add a lot more flour, add just a little sprinkle of salt in there, like a pinch, literally. Not more than that, otherwise it'll be salty. But you also don't want it to taste bland. And if you're using the salted butter, it won't taste bland, but if you're not, you're not. So you basically want to get it to this point where it's a nice ball, and then we're going to roll it out. If you want, you can chill it, but I never seem to need to do that. So depending on the type of pie you're making, the oven temperature is going to vary. And so if you're making like a fruit pie or something, it'll tell you in the instructions on how to make that. If you just want to bake the pie crust plain, you probably want to do it at around 350 degrees for about 10 minutes or so. Okay, so you ideally want to roll this out on something that looks like wood. If you just have Formica, that's okay. And if you have like granite or marble, those work really well too. But I like wood. So what you want to do is put a bunch of flour out, take your pat, and kind of coat it in flour. And this is just the all-purpose flour. It's nothing fancy. And just you're gonna roll it, but first you wanna kind of smoosh it out as best you can with your hand, because trust me, it'll make everything easier in the long run and kind of fix any obvious breaks. So then just kind of go like this with floured hands on your rolling pin to kind of coat it, and you should just roll it out. If it's sticking to your rolling pin, then that means that you either added too much cream or too little cream. And you can usually tell if it seems really dry or if it seems too moist, you know, just play with it. My only advice is next time, be better. Wow, this is really rolling out better than it usually does for me. Proud of myself. Okay, so if you tear up a piece, you just kind of set it back in and you pat it down, and magically everything works out in the end. Trust me, I have problems all the time. Mommy never really officially taught me how to make pies. She just has taught 1,001 of my cousins. So you want to roll it out, and the way to test if it's big enough is take your pie plate, go upside down, and if it's like about 1.5 inches or so around it, then you're usually good. And it should also be pretty thin. If it's not doing that, then you got to keep rolling. So once you've rolled it all out and you've tested it, you know, this is definitely big enough. And then you want to take something like you want to take your narrowest spatula. And when I say narrowest, I mean this way, most definitive line. So it's probably going to be metal. And you just kind of run it underneath the pie. So I have a pastry, they call them pastry knives, but it's a pastry spatula, and that works really well. But again, you just got to find something in your kitchen that works, and it's a process, and you'll figure it out. I trust you. You just kind of fold it all up, and it sometimes gets a little crinkly, but that's okay. And once you've got it right, take your pie plate, and I like to fold mine in quarters just because it makes life easier. And you want to be really gentle with it because, as you can see, it likes to tear. So then, all we do is just go around and make it pretty. So what you're going to do, I'm going to do this on one of my spots that's got a lot of dough, so it's easy to see what I'm doing. You're just going to kind of tuck it underneath itself like this. And you go all the way around. If you've got a chunk that's too big, you just kind of rip it off gently because you want it even. So how I kind of test is I'll kind of fold it under, and if it seems too bushy, that it doesn't work. Then now if you come to a side where it's like, not big enough, you can take those chunks that you've kind of folded out of the way and kind of add them back in. And that's a really good way And that's a really good way to preserve and kind of make everything look pretty in the end. Because remember, once it bakes, all the little nips and tucks are going to fade into each other, and everybody's just going to be impressed with how delicious this tastes. Because it is really, really good. So once you've gone around, if you want to make it really fancy, you can... I'm not doing that right. You take 2 fingers like this and your thumb, and you just press together, and that gives kind of the iconic pie edge. Now, if you were doing a double crust pie here, you wouldn't finish it first. You'd fill it with whatever you were filling it with, and then put the top layer on, and then use the 2 layers folded together. But we're not today. So this is what it looks like, and yes, it's not perfect, but it will taste delicious. So, yay!